Okay, and so I am at this point going to ask Gandhi if she would assume her hosting duties. She's our committee chair, and ask everybody as make sure you enter your name, your agency affiliation, if any, and your email address in the chat box so we can capture your attendance. Thank y'all very much, Gandhi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so very much for joining us for our first virtual resource hour. As Lydia said, my name is Gandhi Daniels, and I am the chair of the Coordination of Services for the Mid-Alabama Coalition for the Homeless. Today, we have 4 shelter providers that will inform us about their agency. We are going to ask everyone to hold their questions to the end of each presentation, and then we'll allow you to ask questions. If you are not free to speak, you may enter your questions in the chat and we will read them off to you all. And to make sure that all presenters have enough time, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we have Ms. Tara Davis, Executive Director of Friendship Mission. Tara Johnson Davis is a nonprofit professional with more than 15 years of experience in the field. Her employment experiences cover many areas of nonprofit management, including development, governance, planning, legislative affairs, and advocacy. The parent of her passion for advocacy, with the understanding that every dollar counts to make a difference for those in need, has served the River region well. Since 2018, Ms. Davis has served as the Executive Director of Friendship Mission. Friendship Mission provides emergency shelter as well as case management for people experiencing homelessness and a soup kitchen that is open to the public. Will you all please help me with a virtual round of applause for Ms. Davis?
Thank you, Gandhi. That was sweet and very unexpected. I don't know where you got all of that. Good afternoon, everyone. I ask that you bear with me. We're a little short today, and who knows who's going to burst into my office next. So Friendship Mission, as Gandhi mentioned, is a set of homeless shelters and a public soup kitchen. We are in operation 7 days a week. So even on those holidays where we think everyone is closed, Friendship Mission is working. So we provide shelter 365 days of the year. We conduct intake 365 days of the year. We have shelter for men, women, and children, and that is split into 2 campuses. So we have emergency shelter for women and women with children, and that is at our location on Chisholm Street at 312 Chisholm Street. And then across town on Mobile Highway, we have Friendship Mission West, as we call it. It is on the west side of Montgomery. And so that is our shelter campus for men. And that is also the location of our public soup kitchen. So we provide shelter and food for those who are hungry, but do not live at Friendship Mission. So that's where our soup kitchen comes into play. Last year, between the 2 shelters and the soup kitchen, we served 48,677 meals. And we provided more than 28,000 emergency shelter bed nights. So it's a little busy around here most days. What else do? We provide connections to resources. So we connect to a lot of the people I see on this call. We connect people to the counseling they need, to mental health services, to physical health services. A lot of times people come to us and they don't have identification. So we connect them to those resources so that they may have their proper ID, government issued ID, so that they can maybe get a job or just get the services that they need from other agencies. So we are thankful for these partnerships, and we're always looking for new ones. We are always looking for new resources for our residents. Other things about Friendship Mission: we do not conduct intake in the middle of the night. That's one of the big questions. We don't have a steadfast cutoff time for intake, but there are times where we say we just can't do any more tonight. People always ask about our availability. Our men's shelter currently is full. We are at capacity for the moment, but it changes quite frequently. At our women and children's shelter, we actually do have some availability, not a lot. We tend to have more availability at this time of year because a lot of people have received their income tax refund. And so there's just more space available. Trying to think other things about Friendship. I think that's Friendship in a nutshell. We've provided emergency shelter and meals to those who are hungry for 25 years now. We were started by a local pastor, and we just always hope to do more. We look for ways to provide more opportunity to help those in need, connect our residents to more resources. So for the past 2 years, we've pretty much been closed to volunteers. We hope to reopen that soon. We are slowly letting people back into the shelters to present maybe their services. We talked to one of our volunteers a few weeks ago, and she will start presenting parenting classes at the Women and Children's Shelter again. At the men's shelter, we've had some pastors who said, when can we come back in person to pray instead of just having Zoom sessions? So we're slowly reopening. It is difficult for us as a shelter program because we have had cases of COVID at both locations. In January of 2021, the majority of our staff went down with COVID. Our women and children's shelter was on lockdown for 14 days straight, no one in, no one out. Unfortunately, I'd kind of contaminated. There was a chance that I had contaminated the shelter, and I did. So I took half my staff down with me. In January of this year, 17 of our residents went down with COVID, and 2 of our staff members all at the same time. So we don't want a repeat of that. With the exception of this Zoom today, I am usually in a mask all day, every day. Not just me, but all of our residents and our staff members. We are still vaccinated or unvaccinated. You have to wear a mask in the building. We're waiting for more guidance on that, but for now, that is the guidance. I think that is it in a nutshell for Friendship, unless someone has questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Tara Davis? Tara,
No, ma'am.
No. I have a question, Tara. Are you all accepting donation? And if so, how can someone donate to you all?
Thank you. We accept donations. We are not accepting clothing at the moment. We are overrun. We are overrun. Normally, we say to people, please take your items to, and we list a few places where we send people, like First Baptist Church, their caring center, or River City Church, but we've had some changes. So I see Patrick waving. Yeah, I've received that news and I'm very sad about it. And even Goodwill. We tell people when you donate to those places, we can typically take our clients through those areas to receive what they need that we don't have on hand. So we keep a pretty good supply on hand, but we are overrun right now with clothing and hygiene items. So we are looking for donations of laundry supplies, dishwashing detergent, air freshener, anything that will disinfect. That's what we're looking for right now. And we ask that someone just call and let us know when they're on their way.
Okay. I have one question.
Yes.
Yes. What is your policy right now about people with medical issues, and primarily folks who have some stage of cancer? I have heard from clients that you don't accept people who are currently having cancer issues. Is that true?
No, it's not true. Actually, unfortunately, yesterday, one of our current residents was diagnosed with cancer. We didn't kick her out. We consoled her, and we're helping her get to her appointments as we were doing before she was diagnosed with cancer. Actually, off the top of my head, I have at least 3 clients with cancer at the moment.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's good to hear. Thank you so much.
All right.
Welcome.
I'm sorry.
Go on, Gandhi.
I think Mr. Lovejoy wants, okay. So the question is, what can we do for a father and daughter who are homeless?
So that has been a point of stress, not just fathers and daughters, but fathers with sons or children, period.
Okay.
We do not have that housing available at Friendship Mission. My understanding is there are some other shelters in the area, and I think at least one of them is going to talk today, who can accommodate. What we do at Friendship is reach out to those other shelters who we think can provide that service with those accommodations. And we help anyone who comes to our door or calls, we help them connect to those resources.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions for Tara?
Yes, this is James Lovejoy. I have a question.
Yes.
Ms. Davis, thanks for coming on and speaking with us today. My question is coming from the spiritual side of the house, as far as what type of services that you provide spiritually, and what do you find that meridian line to accommodate the different faiths and service?
Well, typically we have pastors, local pastors and Bible study leaders who come into the shelter. But as I said, we haven't had to do that. We haven't been able to do that with COVID. So those who want to participate, they do. And those who do not want to participate, they don't. Bible study is not forced. If you don't want to participate in the gathering, then you don't have to. You just need to excuse yourself from the room. For people with varying faiths, we've had a few clients who say that this is my faith and this is what I believe, and that's fine. You need emergency shelter. Please don't stand outside. Come out of the rain. Don't sleep on the sidewalk. We have donors who are of varying faiths, and they understand what we do at Friendship Mission. Someone from another faith came by and said, no matter what, my God tells me to feed people. And so that's what I'm doing. He said, I know how Friendship started. Friendship, for those who don't know, was started by a Presbyterian pastor, the Christian faith. And this donor family came by, and they are Muslim, and they said, our God tells us to feed people. And that's what we're doing. So we have donors of different faiths, but in the end, it looks like everyone is saying you feed those who are in need, feed the hungry, and you give them shelter and you give them clothing. And that's what we do every day.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Any other questions for Tara? If not, Tara, I do not see any additional questions in the chat. So if someone does have a question, will you be on, or?
I am going to have to jump off for a minute. I might jump back on, but if anyone has questions, you know how to find me. My email is in the chat. Both Mrs. Pickett and Mrs. Daniels know how to find me. I'm available, and I'm usually right here at this desk.
Alibi, I got an alibi question. Sorry about that.
That's
Real
okay.
quick, Ms. Tara, is there a small percentage of military veterans, women or men, that come through there? And if so, do you guys have a resource that you reach out to help accommodate some of those military veterans that may come across your facility?
So we provide emergency shelter to people in need, and that does include veterans. We have a very close relationship with the VA. So we help shelter males and females who have served our country. When they need a ride to the VA, we provide that. If they weren't a veteran, we provide whatever ride they need to medical services or we call them essential appointments, and the VA would be an essential appointment. So yes, we talk to the VA quite often, actually.
Well, so thanks. It's good to know that you have a relationship with the VA, because from my side of the house, we try to reach as many as veterans, not only the homeless, but you can't reach everyone. But since I'm coming from the veteran side of the house, we try to help them with their claims and try to help guide them into where they can get adequate services for their service time.
Wonderful. Yes, we've had, especially in COVID, we noticed our number of calls about veterans increased. I'm trying to figure that out. And apparently some of the shelters in Columbus were offline at the height of the pandemic. So they were being referred here. Those veterans were being referred to Montgomery. I don't know if other shelters noticed that activity, but we had more calls than we normally do.
Well, I also wanted to add too that we have with our statistics that we're working with, we have a real high rate of suicides in the military veterans. Not everybody has PTSD, but of course that's a common trait, a common factor with everyone that's going on. So the suicide is very high, and that's alarming.
Yes, it is. It is. So just like with our other residents, as I mentioned, Resource Connections, we try to connect those veterans. If they were referred to us by the VA, we make sure they keep those appointments. If they come to us by some other referral or just show up on their own, if we realize that they are in need of support with their mental health, we make those phone calls, whether it's the VA or Montgomery area mental health or some other connection for counseling or medication. We take that seriously.
Thank you. I didn't want to take up all your time. I just had a last second question. Thank you so much.
Questions. Thank you
Yes.
everyone for listening. If you need us at Friendship Mission, you can call 356-6412. We try really hard to be staffed around the clock, so we just don't always get to the phone. 356-6412, or you may send an email to either my address, which is in the chat, or info at friendshipmission.org.
All right, Tara, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. So for those of you who just joined, if you do not mind, please make sure that you enter your name, your agency affiliation, and also your email address into the chat so that Mark will have your information for future meetings and to know who all attended. Next, we are going to move on to Miss Jamie Teague. She's the Executive Director of Family Promise of Montgomery. First, a very successful case manager and family advocate for Family Promise, now Jamie Teague is the organization's director. She is currently helping to guide the organization from a model of partnering with local churches as a provider or temporary shelter for families to come, in which the organization itself operates a temporary shelter for families. Together with a case manager and volunteers, she assists families to find the resources necessary for childcare, transportation, meals, work, budgeting, and health maintenance as they search for permanent housing solutions. Please give Jamie a virtual round of applause.
All right, that's super fun, Gandhi. I want to know who wrote those for you. Did you sit up all night last night and do those?
No, I have to be honest. I think Eileen wrote all of those. Okay, Eileen wrote all of those.
All right, so I'm Jamie Teague. Family Promise is a shelter for homeless families. So what we do at our shelter is we take any family makeup, which would be either single mom with children, single dad with children, two-parent households. Sometimes we've had grandparents who had custody of grandchildren. Any family makeup, as long as they have children under the age of 18, that's our big requirement, is that we are a family shelter. But the way that we have worked in the past, and Gandhi touched on it a little bit, but I'm just going to really kind of expand on that, is that we partnered with 14 area churches, and our families would go and stay in these churches for a week at a time. The churches would set their Sunday school classrooms up, kind of like hotel rooms. That model came from Hospitality Network, is what we were originally called. And it came from church buildings sitting there empty all week long. And their parishioners come in on Sundays and then they leave, and then they're paying to heat and cool these buildings all week long anyway. So why not house homeless families in the churches during that time? So each of our churches would sign up for a week out of each quarter, and our families would go stay there for a week, and then they would move to the next church, stay there for a week, move to the next church, stay there for a week. Now, we also were operating on an 1,800 person volunteer basis a year. So we would have, yes, Meta, by the way, we do. We would house his families, but the volunteers would come into the churches. They would stock the pantry, which was buying groceries for the week. So breakfast and lunch items, snack items for the kids, drinks, things like that. We would have a whole nother set of volunteers at each church each night come in who have prepared a meal for the families. So that may look like they picked up fried chicken from Publix, but it also may look like they spent 6 hours cooking a roast and potatoes and bread and vegetables, whatever, for our families. And then another set of volunteers would come in and eat and have fellowship with the families and talk to them and visit. And if the kids wanted to play, they played. If the kids needed tutoring, they might help them with their math homework. If the parents needed to get up and go use the restroom, then they were okay to do that. And then we would have a whole nother set of volunteers come into the churches and spend the night with the families in a separate room. Each family has their own room in that setup. And then the volunteers would have a whole nother room that was set up identically to the way the families were sleeping in the churches. Our volunteers did that every night too. As awesome of a model as that is, and as much as we would love to have continued on that path, COVID hit and we couldn't keep our families in the churches anymore. So we have purchased a new building. The address is 432 Clanton Avenue, and we are in the process of renovating that building. So our capacity has gone way, way down right now temporarily. But I think we're at like 200% capacity because we actually turned part of our day center into living quarters for a family right now. And then we are doing some case management and trying to help another family right now that's not even being sheltered in our program. But once that building is finished, we'll be able to house 4 families up to 8 people in each unit at a time. I say up to 8, but really if a family of 10 came in, somehow we would still fit them in there. But anyway, so that is how we will operate. And then our office will be on site because there's a cottage in the back and that'll become the office. And so that is how we will be running in the future as soon as our renovations are done.
Wonderful. That sounds so exciting, Jamie. Do we have any questions for Jamie? Well, Jamie, of course I have a question. Do you all have an idea of when the renovations will be complete?
That's a loaded question, Gandhi. And we are, we really had every intention of already having that building open. But when one of our bathtubs came out, it turns out that there was a nice, large, rotten foundational beam underneath. So that is getting fixed currently so that we can get back to the actual renovation process. We've also had a break-in since we bought the new building at the new location. And they took one of our stoves and they took a washer and dryer. They took a really large mirror off of the wall. They took some chairs and a couple of tables and some lamps that we had already put in the building. So anyway, we are also getting new security put on the entire building.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. So we have a question in the chat, and the question is, how do we refer to Family Promise?
211 refers to us. So if your clients were to give a number to 211, otherwise clients can call us directly, and they can just call us at 265-2010. My cell phone number, if everybody wants to write it down, is sometimes, especially right now, while I'm between two buildings and just all over. Right now, I'm all over the place. Like right now, I'm at home, but I might be at the new location. I might be at the old location. I might be where I have internet. I might be where I don't. I might have a phone. I might not have a phone. So the absolute best way for all of y'all to reach me is going to be to shoot me a text and say, call me when you have a minute. And my cell phone number is 334-315-5490.
Can you say that one more time, Jamie?
Sure. Did you hear bells ringing? I can also put it in the messages. Is that easier?
Okay, that'll be great. Another question for you is, are you all accepting donated items? And if so, what do you need?
No, not currently. We normally accept all kinds of donated items. We love to get new bedding to give to families as they leave our program. We love hair care products, especially for African American females. We love all donations, but right now we're not taking anything. I don't have anywhere to put anything.
Gandhi,
Yes.
Meta had put a question in the chat, which Jamie answered, but I think it'd be beneficial if Jamie would answer for the benefit of everybody here.
Okay, so the question from Meta was, do you accept LGBTQ plus families?
Absolutely. We take families of any makeup as long as they have children under the age of 18. That is, we would not discriminate against race, color, creed, anything.
So Jamie, what are the criteria for families to be accepted into your program, and what are some things that would keep them from not being accepted?
Well, in the past, we did criminal background checks, and we also did drug tests on families as they came into our program. That was a safety net mostly for our churches. We could not take families that had a pattern of theft on their background check. We certainly didn't want any volunteers at churches to feel like they had to keep an eye on any family or feel unsafe for any reason. When our new property opens, we will continue the criminal background check. The background check itself will not be something that keeps someone from being housed, if that makes sense. A lot of that these days are so that we can help somebody get things cleared up on their record, Now, if they do have any violent felony offenses that would keep them from joining our program with children in the building, then we would not be able to house them. And we are no longer drug testing at all. We do random drug testing, but drug testing is not a requirement for entering shelter with us.
Does anyone have any additional questions for Jamie?
Yes, Jamie, this is James Lovejoy. Question, what is the minimum? Thank you for coming with us today, Miss Jamie. What is a minimum requirement for a family to be there? What type of, I mean, just a minimum documentation that they'd have to have as a family to be there? How would you know if you got a Hispanic family that came there? You say you don't discriminate or anything like that. You made that clear. But what type of paperwork at a minimum would they need to get in your shelter?
We do need identification. I'm really sorry.
My dogs are out back, so I understand.
I know I'm about to take the computer in there so that I can shut these blinds and they can't see the people walking past my house. So to come into shelter with us, they will need identification. We do need their social security numbers.
Okay.
And I mean, they do have to prove that those are their children, which is going to generally mean that they have to have a birth certificate, and we will help them get those items.
Okay.
If they need help getting them, but that is something, I mean, we have to have those things to put them into HMIS anyway.
Okay.
So, but I mean, if you're coming to shelter with me, you do have to prove that those are your children.
Got it.
So that they're not just, bringing any trafficked children or anything like that through our program. I mean, we do require that they prove that they are their children. Great.
And the other question that I asked the other young lady and whatnot, you pretty much answered that in your introduction, because you partnered with the different churches. So from the spiritual side of the house, it seems like you're covering so many realms of the religious background and whatnot. So I appreciate that. So thanks for answering that question in advance in your introduction.
And I will say that we do not require any faith-led anything. Even when our families were in churches, we did not require them to participate in any church activities or go to church or go to Bible study or go to fellowship or anything like that. And all of our volunteers knew that that was the case, and they were allowed to ask, do you want to come? But if the answer was no, our families were not required to tell them anything. They didn't have to give them a reason to not want to go. They didn't have to give them a reason for anything like that. Our volunteers we have a really great volunteer training program. So.
Well, that's great. My only question in that realm was just that it was being offered, so that's all I wanted to know.
It is. And that will be something that we continue to offer even at our new location. We are actually situated really in between 5 of our bigger supporting churches.
Okay.
And so they will all have that opportunity to still come to us and do some fellowship. Trinity Church has already said, we do Wednesday night dinner anyway. We would still love to continue feeding your families every Wednesday night. Please bring them. Ascension offers something similar to that for breakfast on Sundays. And so we'll continue working with our churches in a fellowship manner.
Right.
It'll just look a little different when we're in a static site.
Okay. Just as I asked earlier too, what is your relationship with the military or military resources? What's your relationship with that?
We have had several veterans in the past. We haven't had any lately. When we've worked with the veteran services here in Montgomery.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Jamie, a question that's in the chat is, what is the time limit that they can stay in your program? It says, we help veterans and their families, and sometimes to find housing it may take a long time in that process. So what's the length that they can stay with you all?
That's the great thing about our program is that it's different for everyone. There's no cookie cutter program at Family Promise because all families' needs are different. They come to us with totally different backgrounds. They might come to us with totally different needs. Some may have children that are not in school. Some may have them that are. Some may be a veteran. Some may not be a veteran. Typically, our program is 30 to 90 days with an average stay of 54 days. We have had families that have been in our program for a year. We have also had families that have been in our program for 2 weeks because they already had a job and they already had a car. They just needed to save their, what would have been their hotel money so that they could pay a down payment on an apartment or something like that. So we've had families literally every timestamp you could put on a client, we've had that.
Okay, hi Jamie. That was me that asked that question. Now with that, do you all have any type of fees for that? Because what we do is we take the veterans off the street. We try to find them a shelter, and if there's no available shelters, we'll put them into a hotel and help them pay for their apartment, which will end up paying for that for up to 9 months for them. So are there any type of fees that we would have to pay if we send them to you?
No, we do not charge at our shelter at all.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Correct. We are not accepting new clients at this moment because I just don't have anywhere to put them. Sorry, Brittany asked the question, just to be clear, you are not accepting new clients at this time, correct? And that is correct. We do not have any more space.
Are there any additional questions for Jamie? All right, Jamie, thank you so very much for presenting to us this afternoon. Anything else you need to say?
Oh no, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So next, we have Mr. Stephen Holdren, Director of Residential Programs at Family Sunshine Center. Stephen began his career as service delivery in Montgomery with Sequel Youth and Family Services before joining the Family Sunshine team in 2018. He quickly transitioned from a residential supervisor to the position of Director of Residential Programs after improving Family Sunshine Center's service delivery model. He now serves on the Family Sunshine Center's senior management team, providing direction and input on programs and services across the organization. In his new role, Stephen helped to develop and launch a new residential program for victims of human trafficking in the summer of 2020. He manages 2 emergency shelters, 2 transitional home facilities, and multiple programs, all designed to provide hope and healing for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. Please help me give a virtual round of applause for Stephen Holdren.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. Who wrote that? I want to know who wrote that. Where did you get that from?
Eileen wrote it. I'll give all of you a copy of what was written about you so you can use it later on.
Right. I definitely need that. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Stephen Holden. I'm the Director of Residential Programs for the Family Sunshine Center. And I'm tasked today to give you an oversight of what we have to offer as far as residential services. Well, initially we start off, of course, with hope and healing. The victims that we serve are victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, as well as human trafficking. And like was said in the introduction, we just recently opened that program in 2020, and it's flourishing. And so we're extremely proud of that. Starting off, to access our services, just to access our care, it starts off with our emergency crisis line. Our emergency crisis line number is 334-263-0218. Again, it's 334-263-0218. And if you need the 1-800 number, that 1-800 number is 1-800-650-6522. It is 365 days a year, 24/7. We always have someone on the crisis line. And that crisis line is the accessing point of our care. On that crisis line is also an avenue for us to give our community resources. Many times the people that call the crisis line aren't necessarily trying to access shelter for domestic violence, sexual assault, or human trafficking. They may have other needs that they need in that community. So through this line also, we have access to community resources like 211 and others that are out there in the community or surrounding river region. So from this access point, it's a deciding factor in which you are admitted into shelter, basically being a domestic violence, sexual assault, or human trafficking client. And from the access point, you go from the access point to a private facility or private place that we meet the survivor, and then they transition to our emergency shelter. Our emergency shelter currently is 7 to 10 days. It was 3 to 5, but we've seen a trend in large families coming in our shelter and not really adjusting well. So we give them a longer time to adjust. And when I say adjust, I'm just saying getting access to food, clothing, whatever their needs may be. An adjustment inside a dormitory style environment is extremely difficult for a family of 5 or 6 to go from a single family home to a dormitory style environment where they're coming into an environment, they have a lot of trauma, they're already scared and they don't know anyone. So it's extremely difficult. So we've given them an extension of 7 to 10 days. And it's also about their danger level. If their danger level permits them to extend their time in emergency shelter, then we do so. And throughout that time, what we do is just access their needs. They tell us what they want. As a survivor, we give them the opportunity to let us know what they want to do within this short-term time period. On many occasions, short-term is just that. What can we get you that you need to have access to eliminate some of those barriers that may be causing you to not be able to get a job, not to purchase a vehicle? So the case manager works with those victims. While working with those victims, they may try to get their documentation in regards to social security cards, driver's license, and they also have a child advocate that they work with. And that child advocate helps with TANF, helps with food stamps, helps with transitioning that child or children to another school if the mother sees fit or if the father sees fit. So emergency shelter is just where we take care of those basic needs, and we try to give the family an opportunity to adjust, of course, to that dormitory style environment. The dormitory style environment is not always super adjustable for people. So in many cases, they may stay very short term from 3 to 5 days, and they may find alternative measures such as family and friends that they go to after they leave us. But of course, the emergency shelter is always there. Again, that access point is through emergency shelter, and it's available 24/7, 365. When the survivor chooses to do so, if they want to transition to our transitional housing program, again, that's where all our magic really happens. The transitional housing program is more long-term. In our transitional housing program, you can stay up to 24 months. So this gives the opportunity for the survivor to stabilize for a permanent basis. Inside this TH program, they're provided supportive services to help clients get back on their feet. These services include case management, financial coaching, employment assistance, children's services, life skills trainings, referrals to other community resources. TH is broken up into 2 different phases. Those phases are TH1, which is still within the dormitory style environment, and as well as TH2, which is our exit community. And TH1, again, it's still in that dormitory style environment, and it's for people who are a little more high risk. Our exit community, on the other hand, is for those survivors who are a little more independent, who have larger families, and who are a little more independent as far as they have transportation, they have jobs, they are gainfully employed, and they don't want to be in a real structured environment per se when it comes to the dormitory style, they rather have a little more freedom and a little more independence. So when you transition to the Exodus community, again, it's a lot more independent. That transitional housing phase 2 is for clients who are just able to be independent and still can meet those safety needs that we need for them while they're in our care. The clients who move on to the Exodus community, they can stay up to, again, 24 months. It is a 12-unit family style apartment complex that offers case management and supportive services. And the Exodus clients are able to live rent-free, but they still must be able to take care of their utilities and have them in their own name. And many times the clients who leave our TH2 program, they go to our rapid rehousing program. Our rapid rehousing program started back in 2018 when I first started, and it's been near and dear to us. We've probably housed over 56 families, put them in permanent housing back into the community from domestic violence and sexual assault encounters. Some clients only need help in finding a secure long-term place to live. They don't want all of the restrictions. They want to kind of be on their own. This is where our rapid rehousing program comes in. Our rapid rehousing program is a short-term housing assistance for clients who want to quickly obtain housing. That's hence rapid rehousing. A lot of times they get into the dormitory style environment and they can't deal with it. They still want access to our services. So we give them the option to rapidly rehouse. And of course, a lot of our clients choose to rapid rehouse. They feel like that's the way to go. They want their own independence. They want their own backyard. They want their own space that they don't have to share with anyone. Our rapid rehousing program helps clients find and obtain permanent housing based upon their needs and their financial resources. At the end of the day, we do a lot of great work in the community. Our human trafficking program, and I can just touch on that very briefly. It's a 7-bed facility. It is also emergency shelter. We have partnered with the Attorney General's office, and we have a huge amount of MOUs with different people and different advocates trying to access victims and survivors of human trafficking. Again, that program is a 7-bed facility. It's very secure, more restricted. It also gives the opportunity for survivors to get back on their feet and transition into something more long-term with another agency that has transitional housing for human trafficking, which we are definitely looking forward to establishing that very soon.
All right. Thank you so very much for providing the presentation for us. I do have a question that's in the chat, and this question is coming from David Humphrey.
Okay.
With the Alabama Alliance for Human Trafficking and Child Safety. The question is, how many trafficking victims do you house per month? And do you have a place for a dad and a daughter to go or stay?
So monthly, it varies. As many of you know about human trafficking, a lot of times it takes a lot for a trafficking victim to really commit to a program. So it varies. We fluctuate. It's a small program up to 7 beds. We have probably 2 to 4 victim survivors a month. In regards to a father and their child, that's something that you can just give me a call on and we'll work something out. We're willing to help anyone, especially with the human trafficking program.
How can we reach you, Mr. Holden?
You can reach me at 334-206-2100.
Another question that we have for you is, how do clients gain access to the rapid rehousing if they were previous recipients of your services and have since left? Okay,
so if it depends on where they are in the program as far as the year. If they're still in the fiscal year, then they're still eligible for follow-up services. Our follow-up services in our rapid rehousing program last up to 12 months. So if they're outside of that 12-month period, in order for them to enter our rapid rehousing program, they would have to go through emergency shelter first. They won't have to transition into transitional housing phase 1 or 2 or anything like that. once they got into emergency housing and their risk level was low, we would start the rapid rehousing program, but you would have to enter residential services before you get the rapid rehousing program funds.
So if they are still in that fiscal year, how do they reconnect with the agency?
Well, I would hope that they wouldn't have to reconnect. I would hope that our follow-up services would be optimal. Our former, well, yeah, she's former. She worked with us. She started the rapid rehousing program with myself. Brittany Smith, she had a caseload of maybe 15 people that were on her caseload for new clients, and she had 15 people on her caseload for old clients, and she followed up. You're supposed to be in follow-up. You're supposed to get monthly inspections to your home, as well as telephone calls, texts, emails, however we can communicate with you. And if you were in need of some rental assistance or some utility assistance or anything like that, that can all take place through the rapid rehousing program if you're still in that follow-up. But I will say this, regardless if you're in that follow-up or not, we still take care of our clients. If someone calls us and says, hey, I was in rapid rehousing, I can't pay out my rent, we have different avenues where we'll, do our best to ensure that, we get that client's rent assistance.
Thank you for that answer. Do we have any additional questions for Mr.
Yes,
Holden?
I got a question. I'm consistent. I'm going to ask you a question. I didn't ask Jamie this earlier, as well as Friendship Mission, and I was looking at my notes here. But I know you guys have seen many different situations, but the one that I have not heard you talk much about is special needs, whether it be autistic, whether it be Parkinson's and whatnot. What is your relationship and your resources in that area? Of course, it depends on what it is. And we'll take an autistic kid for one.
Okay. Well, I mean, very simple. All of our bathrooms are ADA compliant. To autism, we're very inclusive. Again, it's up to the survivor. We've had many cases where, parents say that having an autistic child may be difficult for them to adjust in a dormitory environment.
Right.
And what we've done is try to accommodate them by offering alternative housing methods, maybe hotel stays or something more longer term instead of putting them in the dormitory style environment.
Okay.
As far as resources, of course, you have DHR. We have a wonderful relationship with DHR, and the resources we need outside of that, they
right.
That.
Right. I missed the last part of it. We got a hot mic, Miss Daniels. So I didn't hear the last one that Mr. Holdren. Okay, thank you.
Yes, I know. I'm going to address that in just a second.
Okay, thanks. But I caught 90% of that. That was a great reply, but that was just one of the ones that came by, and I'm sure Jamie has faced that earlier as well. But right. I appreciate your response on that.
Right. And, with autism, as well as any other substance abuse or mental health needs, residential programs can facilitate that. We have a residential counselor that specializes in substance abuse as well as mental health. And of course, we have partnering MOUs with COSA, in the process of having some MOUs with mental health. So we try to ensure that our resource tool is fully stocked and locked and loaded to serve survivors.
Great. And how would you rate your relationship with the security, with the police department, as far as rapidly or having them to be on the case if you need to? How would you rate that?
From a scale to 1 to 10, I would say an 8. Anytime we've had any situations with abusers or perpetrators on any properties or anything of that nature, they have always been huge in the community with us. Can we have a better relationship? Of course. I think we have a great relationship now. We do a lot of outreach and prevention with the police academy. I spoke there several times and talked to the cadets. It's an ongoing building relationship.
Thank you so much for your answers.
So,
Thank you, to Ms. Daniels. I yield my time back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lovejoy. Mr. Holdren, one additional questions.
Mhm.
Do you all take donations? And if so, what are you in need of?
We're always in need of everything. We do take donations. We get donations throughout the years. So whatever, a survivor needs pretty much everything. Sometimes survivors leave home with no clothing, no nothing. We do a great job at giving them those items when they're here, but of course, with the influx of clients, we always dwindle down and we don't have as much as we used to have. But we have great partners, partnering relationships with Fraser, with Straight Gate, Church. So we have a lot of stuff, but we're always in need of donations.
And where can those donations, yes, do you have a drop-off center?
We don't have a drop-off center. I would suggest that call the 263-2100 number, and they will transfer you to the person who is in charge of donations, and they can kind of facilitate that for you.
Perfect. Jamie, would you like to respond to Mr. Lovejoy's questions for everyone about special needs or disabilities?
Oh, well, I mean, I just printed it in the comments that because we're a small operation, I mean, we've done things as far as like sitting in on IEP meetings for children at schools and doing all of that kind of stuff, just to make sure that all of those needs are being taken care of from every angle. But yes, we've had lots and lots of disabilities with children, especially.
Thank you, Jamie, for your response. I got your chat. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Holdren, is there anything else that you would like to tell us about Family Sunshine Center?
It's a great day to be at Family Sunshine Center. It's an amazing opportunity for myself. It's an amazing opportunity for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, as well as human trafficking. I think we're extremely innovative, and we are very forward thinking, and we are just trying to get out of this pandemic, so we can engage with more victim survivors and have more accomplishments and have more positive outcomes.
All right, thank you so very much, sir.
Hey, Ms. Daniels.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say, Mr. Holdren, when you said the human trafficking and whatnot, I've been on many the sessions, or a few in particular, and and it seems like you'll be a great resident expert as far as from a male perspective, because I mentor youth guys and whatnot from 14 through 18-year-olds. And we always talk about the young ladies. They say, look at the signs if somebody's getting abused, but nobody really addresses the young men that may get abused, sexually abused, And so, and it's great to hear it coming from a male perspective of looking for the signs, And
Absolutely.
so I just some of the things like that, I sat on one where there was a board and it was all, females there, and they was talking about how to look and identify if a young girl is being, trafficked and whatnot, but they didn't really touch too much on the young male being trafficked.
Right. We in our human trafficking program, we are extremely inclusive. So our program is designed to take males. Our program is designed to take females, LGBTQ community. Our program is designed to take a plethora of different people inside of our program. So the male aspect, we haven't seen it much, but
right.
But it's out there, and we're willing to, accept the male into our program. Now, some of the guidelines for our program are you have to be 19 years of age. But also another aspect of our program in human trafficking is we have outreach capabilities and we have partnerships. And so those partnerships gives us the opportunity, if we can't provide any services for you, we have somebody that can within that coalition and within that task force. We have somebody that can definitely serve that victim. We're not going to let a victim not get any services because they fall outside of our scope.
Right. Great. God bless you. Thank you so much. It's reassuring, especially as I work with my young men and whatnot. It's very reassuring, and for me to try to look for those certain signs. And thank God I haven't ran across that. But I'm ex-military. I try to prepare for the worst case scenario. Thanks again.
No problem at all.
Thank you, Mr. Holdren. I would like to know, is there anyone representing Salvation Army on the line today? Salvation Army? All right, well, if not, I would like to say thank you to all of our presenters today. Each of you were awesome. I hope that all of our guests, our fellow agencies, have heard something that they can use as we walk throughout our daily lives, helping individuals. We will have another resource hour on Wednesday, May the 18th from 3 to 4. And we will be discussing mental health. So please mark your calendars. You will receive another invite. And I will turn it over to Lydia in case she has something that she wants to share.
Okay, thanks again, everybody. This was our first resource hour. We didn't know if it would just be us. So I'm glad that so many people attended, and judging by the comments and the questions, it has been, I see you, Tanya, very insightful for some. So I'm glad about that. We did have Salvation Army, that's our other major shelter here in town, scheduled to speak today, and we did have a commitment from them. So I'm assuming that something came up unexpected that they were unable to make it. I will say that most of you already know they house men, women, and children. She did say on a meeting earlier today that Captain Tabitha Roberts did say they've had more families in need recently than ever. And we're noticing that just from the phone calls we get. And so their family unit stays full. I don't know what their capacity, I don't know the current bed capacity, considering that we're still in a pandemic, and I don't know their current availability. But they house men, women, and children. You can try reaching them by phone, or people can show up at, I think it's 4 o'clock. If I'm wrong, Patrick, tell me. Show up at 4 o'clock to see if there's a bed available for that particular night. So sorry I can't provide more, but anyway, you can always call 201 for more information also about Salvation Army.
They will take intake up until 6 as well. So 4 to 6.
Awesome.
4 to 6.
Okay.
Fantastic. Hey, Ms. Lydia, I wanted to say Ms. Daniels did a fantastic job in facilitating
person.
this. And I wanted to say thank you. I feel like I was at the Oscars or the Grammys here.
That's Gandhi.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank y'all. Any questions from anybody? And while you're here, like Gandhi mentioned, our next one will be about mental health. It'll be on May 18th. If there's a topic that you think we need to bring to this group or to this forum, let us know. I mean, we'll take suggestions now, or you can email us, lydia@midalhomeless.org, lydia@midalhomeless.org. You can email us, or you can just shout it out. Did you have a question, Meta? You're muted. Wait a minute. Can you unmute, Gandhi? Can you unmute Meta? I gave you hosting.
Meta, did you see the request to unmute?
There we go. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I wondered if we could hear from Patrick about exactly what's going on at River Regions.
River City Church. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And for those who
Yeah.
don't know, Patrick, go ahead. Just kind of do it in a summary form.
The weekly mission at River City Church will cease to exist as of March 31st. The church as a whole will be closing on June the 30th. I've got a couple of options as to where to move the weekly mission. And as soon as something is concrete, I will be making an announcement regarding that. This was not our decision, but the decision has been made, so we have to live by it.
We'll keep you posted.
Hey, Patrick, could you call me about that later?
Okay. And does anybody else have any other announcements while we're here? Well, I love this group. It's a great group. It's a diverse group. It's an active and engaged group. And this was a great thing. I have to give credit to Gandhi and her committee for coming up with this. And it's really good. And I really appreciate everybody taking the time this afternoon. It's good seeing everybody. And I have nothing more. So if there's nothing from anyone else, Gandhi, we're okay? Well, thanks, everyone. Have a
Hey,
great.
I wanted Jamie's number. Jamie, please send me your number. I just put it in the chat real quick. I think I'm gonna lose it if we sign out.
Mr. Lovejoy. Jamie's number is on your board list, but I'll let her send it to you. I'm picking
Oh,
it.
well, okay, you know what? I was just busted out, so I appreciate it. Never mind. I got it, Jamie. Never mind. Thank you, Lydia.
You're so welcome. You know I love you.
Love you too. That's why my name is Lovejoy.
I know that's right. All right. Thanks, y'all. Good afternoon, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.